Prabhupada ki jai. Ananta Koti Vaishnava Vrinda ki jai. This is Mantra Srimad Bhagavatam, Canto 1, Chapter 15, Text 6. Lokoya Priyadarshanaha Ukthen Rahito Yaesha Mrutakah Prochate Yatha Yasya Kshanaviyogena Lokoya Priyadarshanaha Ukthen Rahito Yaesha Mrutakah Prochate Yatha Yasya Kshanaviyogena Lokoya Priyadarshanaha Uktena Rahito Yaesha Uktena Mrutakah Prochate Yatha Kshanaviyogena Lokoya Priyadarshanaha Uktena Rahito Yaesha Mrutakah Prochate Yatha Yasya Kshanaviyogena Lokoya Priyadarshanaha Uktena Rahito Yaesha Mrutakah Prochate Yatha. Vaishnavis. Yasya Kshanaviyogena Lokoya Priyadarshanaha Uktena Rahito Yaesha Mrutakah Prochate Yatha Yasya Kshanaviyogena Lokoya Priyadarshanaha Uktena Rahito Yaesha Mrutakah Prochate Yatha. Yasya, whose, Kshana, a moment, Viyogena, by separation, Lokaha, all the universes, He, certainly, Apriyadarshanaha, everything appears unfavorable, Ukthena, by life, Rahitaha, being devoid of, He, certainly, Eshaha, all these bodies, Mrutakaha, dead bodies, Prochate, are designated, Yatha, as it were. Translation and purport by His Divine Grace, A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami Srila Prabhupada. Translation. I have lost. Sorry. I have just lost him whose separation for a moment would render all the universes unfavorable and void, like bodies without life. Purport. Factually, for a living being, there is no one dearer than the Lord. The Lord expands himself by innumerable parts and parcels as Swamsha and Vibhinnamsha. Paramatma is the Swamsha part of the Lord, whereas the Vibhinnamsha part are the living beings. As the living being is the important factor in the material body, for without the living being, the material body has no value. Similarly, without Paramatma, the living beings has no status quo. Similarly, Brahman or Paramatma has no locus standi without the Supreme Lord Krishna. This is thoroughly explained in the Bhagavad Gita. They are all interlinked with one another or interdependent factors. Thus, in the ultimate issue, the Lord is the summum bonum and therefore the vital principle of everything. ॐ ज्ञानतिमिरन्धस्य ज्ञानाञ्जनशलाकाय चक्षुरुन्मिलितं येन तस्मै श्रीगुरवे नमः नमः ॐ विष्णुपादाय कृष्णपृष्ठाय भूतले श्रीमते भक्तिवेदान्त स्वामी इति नामिने नमस्ते सरस्वती देवे गौरवाणी प्रचारिणे निर्विशेष शून्यवादी पाश्चात्य देशतारिणे वाञ्छाकल्पतरुभ्यश्च कृपा सिन्धुभ्य एव च पतितानां पावनेभ्यो वैष्णवेभ्यो नमो नमः जय श्री कृष्ण चैतन्य प्रभु नित्यानंद श्री अद्वैत गदाधार श्रीवासादि गौर भक्तवृंद हरे कृष्णा 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 हरे 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 राम 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 हरे हरे. My dear Lord, please guide us all as we try to learn from the examples of your great devotees how we can hold on to your lotus feet when our very power to hold seems to be slipping away from us. Hare Krishna. So today we are, in one sense, doing the second part of the two-part series. How many of you were not there for the first part or did not hear it online? Okay. So I'll quickly recap it, but this will be a separate class beyond it. In the previous session, we discussed about Arjuna's plight. How Arjuna is facing a crisis of an unimaginable magnitude. Generally, when we face distress in life, we have some means to deal with distress. Say, we have wealth, we have skills, and then we have meaning in our life. Say, I'm working so hard, not just for money, I want to take care of my family. We have meaning in life. But when both are lost in one go, for Arjuna, his archery skills were the material shelter, and Krishna's presence was the spiritual shelter. And when both are lost, it is utterly unbearable. This was the extent of the plight that Arjuna was facing. And then it's at such times, what do? It's important for us to find out how Krishna is manifest for us. Krishna is still manifest, but often in a way different from what we expect. So Arjuna gradually realized that Krishna was not there with me in person, but Krishna through the message of the Bhagavad Gita was still there. So we discussed how Krishna himself can be approached through different ways. Some people may approach Krishna through the cultural pathway, some through the philosophical pathway, some through the social pathway, some through the psychological pathway. That means somebody who approaches Krishna the social pathway, what they primarily value is the relationships, the belonging. Oh, devotees are such nice people. That's why I want to be with them. Somebody approaches to the psychological pathway. Oh, I feel so peaceful and nice when I come to this place, when I do this activity. So different people experience Krishna in different ways. But whatever it is, the way we are experiencing Krishna, the nature of life is that we will experience some quake. And when that happens, if we come in the association of devotees, because devotees are so wonderful, devotees are so nice, devotees are so caring, and then if some devotee misbehaves with us, or if a devotee behaves in a very rude or condescending or uh, abusive way, then we start thinking, why should I even be here? So that time, when that quake comes, either we can run away from Krishna or we can still move toward Krishna. That Krishna is bigger than my conception of Krishna. So Krishna's attractiveness is not just because Krishna's devotees are such nice people, but Krishna is still attractive. Krishna can still be connected with through the philosophy. Krishna can still be connected with through the practices. So we need to be able to move toward Krishna. And the key point was that if we all have a conception of Krishna, this is what Krishna is, this is what Krishna consciousness is. And Krishna is actually much greater than our conception of Krishna. And gaining this realization is vital for our spiritual growth. Otherwise, we will not be able to sustain ourselves in a spiritual journey. So, when Krishna's personal presence was no longer there for Arjuna, he, by remembering the Gita's words, remembered in a very intimate and deep way that Krishna is still there with him, within him, even though he's not without. So now, in this particular verse, Arjuna is continuing to express his plight. And sometimes, because Sanskrit seems to be a complex language, sometimes we just struggle to even pronounce the words. That sometimes the emotions that are there, that may be lost. So when he's saying that one moment of separation from my Lord, yasya kshana viyogena. So one moment of separation, what is that like? Rahito, when life is without him, that uktena rahito ya esha. It is that as if life has left the body. It is. What is when life has left the body? What is that body called? It's called a corpse. So it's essentially saying that I am just a walking corpse now. That without Krishna, what is the point of my life? Why am I even living? Sometimes we all may need to convey what we are going through some metaphors. And the metaphors have to register. Now, one devotee I was trying to do mediation between two devotees, and one devotee told me that one of the devotees said, I feel as if, a truck has been driven over my body. And he said, what makes it worse? He turned to the other devotee and said that it was you who were driving that truck over my body. So whatever that other devotee had done, that he felt it such a betrayal, such a pain. This other devotee was shocked when he said this. I didn't realize this hurt you so badly. So sometimes we may be going through some emotion, but if we don't convey that emotion appropriately, what happens is the other person says, why are you getting so worked up about this? And then we feel, why are you not understanding me? So it's not necessarily a problem that the two people don't care for each other. It's often we may care, but we may not care to communicate effectively. And then one person feels you are just insensitive, the other person feels you are hypersensitive. And then it just becomes worse when it does not need to be. So our communication, so if one person says, you are so insensitive. Now what is happening is that this person is feeling hurt, but other person says, you are just hypersensitive, you are oversensitive. Now, it's not that the other person doesn't care, but it is just that the other person may not care for this thing as much as the first person cares for. So now we need to tell the other person, convey why is this so important for me? And different people may be entering into a relationship, entering into a connection with different expectations. And when that expectation is not fulfilled, the person may feel very disappointed, even betrayed. So clarifying expectations often happens through communication. So here we will talk about this, that when Arjuna said, yes, Sakshana Viyogena, this is the way I was experiencing Krishna, and now I can no longer experience him. Even when we come to bhakti, we need to understand that we come to bhakti. Earlier I said that we come to bhakti through different pathways. Now, today I'll try to focus on the relationship between Krishna and Krishna consciousness movement, or we can say ISKCON. So there are many people, especially in today's world, who are very much against organized religion. They feel that when religion becomes organized, it just becomes materialistic. It just becomes a power struggle. It loses all spirituality. Now, it can be addressed in different ways. So one of the ways I say is that you just stay with us sometime, you will realize we are not very organized. So that's one way of looking at it. But basically, there are two extremes we might go in. One is that actually God cannot be reached through any organization. They are totally different. And the other is they are entirely the same. So one is some people may just become so averse to the Krishna consciousness movement because they have some bad experiences. They say that there is no presence of Krishna over here. There are just people who are power hungry, people who are abusive, people who are this, people who are that. Now their experience might be true, but the inference from their experience is what is questionable. Now there are others who may say that you can never experience Krishna except through Krishna consciousness, except through ISKCON. And they may quote, Prabhupada said, ISKCON is my body. Prabhupada said, never leave ISKCON. Now, yes, these are true. So we could say that Prabhupada did say ISKCON is my body. But then Prabhupada also told us that we are not our bodies. Isn't it? We are soul. So that metaphor is actually very helpful. You see, there is Krishna. Krishna is the soul, and ISKCON, or the Krishna consciousness movement, is the body. So there is, on one side we can say Bhed, the other side is Abhed. Bhed means the two are different. If it's considered a pendulum, one side says they're different, and the other side says they are completely the same, Abhed. Now our very philosophy is that it is both Bhed and Abhed. The soul is different from the body. Yet the soul needs a body to function in this world. And not just function in this world, but even for purification. The body, the Bhagavatam says, is needed not just for bhoga, it is also needed for dharma. It is also needed for bhakti. Now, many people may use the body for bhoga, for personal indulgence. But if they want purification, if they want to live ethically, if they want devotion, the body is necessary for that also. So the body is a tool, but it is a vital tool. So we have to be careful what the body is being used for. So is the body itself spiritual? Well, not exactly. The body is material. But the body can be used in Krishna's service and then it becomes spiritualized. So, once Hagrid Prabhu, he was in New York and he was typing some of Prabhupada's manuscripts, editing them. And Prabhupada came into the room. And we saw Prabhupada, the etiquette he had learned, so he was trying to offer obeisances. But he was sitting on the floor, the typewriter was in the way. And to offer obeisances, he had pushing the typewriter away. So he used his leg to try to kick the typewriter away. And Prabhupada says, don't touch it with your leg. That typewriter is being used to type the Bhagavatam. It is sacred. And then Hagrid Prabhu said, Swamiji, so is it that the typewriter is sacred, but my leg is not sacred? So Prabhupada said, you are a devotee, your leg is also sacred. But sacred objects are treated with respect. And when we treat something with respect, we don't touch it with our foot. So, just because something is spiritual does not mean that it is all treated in the same way. It's spiritual, but the spirituality is perceived in different ways at different times. Prasad is spiritual. But if we say, if it is spiritual, how can I chew it and deform it and crush it? Well, that is the way we connect with Prasad. That is the way we serve Prasad. Mm-hmm. So, we may say that deity's beauty is not for our pleasure. We are beautifying Krishna when we are dressing the deities for Krishna's pleasure. That is true. But then, if we have done dressing, after that we have to evaluate with our vision. Is everything proper or not? Is everything in the proper position, proper alignment? And does this look beautiful? Will that look more beautiful? They say Krishna's beauty doesn't depend on my decoration. That is true, but the way the beauty is manifested in this world does depend on how that manifestation is being seen. So, Krishna himself is all attractive, but for his attractiveness to manifest in this world, it depends on the devotees who are doing that service. So, there is bhed and abhed. That means there is an appropriate material way of approaching so that we can experience Krishna. And sometimes there may be an inappropriate material way of approaching by which we may not experience Krishna, or by which we may not be able to help others experience Krishna. So, when we are in the devotee community, so my topic was tolerance, and especially tolerance in transcendence. That I was doing a devotee care workshop in one place, and then I said, when we are practicing bhakti, we have to tolerate many things. So I asked the devotees, what all do we need to tolerate? And one devotee who most people in that community knew to be a troublemaker, immediately raised his hand. And I said, yes. And he said, okay, what do we have to tolerate? He said, devotees. So I said, yes, it is a good realization that we need to tolerate devotees. And as we grow, we'll gain another realization that devotees are tolerating us. So sometimes we are only aware of others' faults. And we think, despite all these faults, I'm tolerating them. But then as we grow, we start realizing our own faults. And we realize that others are also tolerating me. So in one sense, a relationship, both sides need to tolerate each other. However, the idea is both are trying to serve Krishna and both want to move towards Krishna. So both are ultimately seeking transcendence. So while seeking transcendence, when we interact with each other, we need tolerance. One of the purposes of the Krishna consciousness movement that Prabhupada established in the founding document was to bring all living beings closer to each other and closer to Krishna, the prime entity. So it is not just closer to Krishna. Prabhupada didn't just want us to individually be Krishna conscious. Prabhupada wanted us to be a community, closer to each other and closer to Krishna. So I'll talk about broadly when we come to Krishna consciousness, we all have different expectations. Earlier, I talked about on the previous session about how we may have cultural expectations, relational expectations, intellectual expectations like that. But here now I will talk about specifically if we consider the Krishna consciousness movement, we may all have different conceptions of, and based on what our conception is, our expectation will be shaped accordingly. And when different devotees have different expectation or conceptions, so our conceptions lead to expectations. And depending on our expectations, we can either have either satisfaction if our expectation is met, or we can have frustration. So I'll talk about broadly 4 different conceptions that with which people may come to a spiritual movement. Now these don't necessarily one-to-one correlate with the 4 things that I talked last time, but they're broadly related. So I'll do a quick overview of each of these and then we will look at it. First is as a home. Oh, this is my family. This is my spiritual family. That's the term we use when this is my god brother or god sister. These are my god siblings. This is my god family. So the idea is this is my home. And this is where we come to get a sense of belonging, get a sense of warmth, a sense of connectedness, a sense of being of love, to be loved and to love and be loved. So that sense. So it's like a home where we think this is my family. So in this case, the primary focus we can say is on bonding. But some others may see the Krishna consciousness movement as an office, as a workplace. And now, as a home, Prabhupada did talk about this, that devotees, we want to have good relationship among devotees. We'll come back to each of these and elaborate on it. But some people may see this as an office. Now, office primarily means that's where work is to be done. So, we don't just come to sit and talk with devotees, we come to do seva. There are things to be done. There is work to be done. There are targets to be made. There are projects to be completed. There is so much that needs to be done for the world's sake. So when we are in an office, do we want to bond with our colleagues? Well, yes, but that's not the top priority. The top priority is getting things done. So here we could say achieving. That's the primary thing. And while these two can seem not that different, actually they can be very, very different, especially the especially for those who are very closely affiliated with the movement. So for example, if somebody is residing in the movement, that means that is their home. In the past, most devotees would move into the temples. The temple was equated with Krishna consciousness. In fact, some devotees used to say at that time that if you live in the temple, you are in Shuddha Sattva. If you live outside the temple nearby, you are in Sattva. If you live at a distance from the temple, you are in Rajas. If you live far away from the temple, you are in Tamas. So, so the transcendental was equated with the geographical. Now we don't do that so much. But still, the idea is that there are devotees who stay in the temple. Now, if you're staying in the temple, you can say physically it is our home. But psychologically, what is our experience? Do we see it as a home or do we see it as a workplace, as an office? And this can become very different. Say, for example, if we have book distribution goals. On one side, we are exhorted. Come on, let's distribute more books for Prabhupada's sake. Prabhupada would say, double it. And we will seek to distribute more and more and more books. And when that is the focus, then on one side, anybody who say becomes a top book distributor, They become like a hero. They are celebrated. And somebody who doesn't distribute that many books, that person may not even be noticed. Hmm. So the achievers are who are celebrated, and non-achievers, they may not be even noticed at all. But then, so the office value could be achieve, do maximum service, raise maximum funds, distribute maximum books, do big programs. Whoever is the gets the maximum people to come for programs, that's the best preacher, that's the best devotee. But they're two different things actually. The best preacher is not necessarily the best devotee. The best book distributor is not necessarily the best devotee. So one value focuses on achieving. But another value may be that, celebrate other success. Don't be envious. Don't be jealous if somebody else is successful. Actually, in their success, it's our success also. Well, it doesn't feel like that, isn't it? It is that person succeeds and that person gets the glory, and I don't get any notice at all. I'm not even paid any attention to. So if somebody has the expectation of home, like in a home, it might be that there are parents have different children, and one child might be brilliant, say in studies, the other child might not be that brilliant. Now, of course, there'll be some parents may say, "I love all my children equally." No, no parent can actually do that. They may try to show, they may try to offer equal facilities or equal things for children, but there's a natural more affection, less affection for some child, one child, other child. That's just natural. But say even if a child is a low achiever, the parents don't just simply neglect or reject the child. If they start doing that, then that's no longer a home. So this the idea of is the Krishna consciousness movement our home or is it our office? These two conceptions can sometimes differ and sometimes they can even collide. And when they collide, that's where problems come up. So if we are working from an office perspective, then the project is more important, the service is more important. Now, who is doing the service is not very important. If this person is not there, let's find some other person. And in one sense, if we are in the office, what happens is the people, they are in one sense replaceable. If you don't do this job, I hire someone else to do the job. But generally speaking, at home, people are not replaceable. If everybody in the home is replaced and replaceable, then that's no longer a home, isn't it? So now there is this tension and there is no easy resolution because we are a movement at the same we are a movement where we want to have the bonding of devotees. At the same time, we also want to do things. And the people who come with these two different conceptions, some people who come with, say, the conception that this is a home, they expect that when I come, people should greet me, people should talk with me, people should ask about my well-being, people should sit and talk with me. As soon as I come, without even asking how I am doing, come on, do this service, come on, do that service. Why have you not completed the service? We feel I'm just being used over here. And those who come with the idea of office, they will say, why are you spending so much time chit-chatting? Don't you have something to do? They may think that all chit-chatting is just prajalpa. I was introduced in the Pune temple in India. Then for my services, I was assisting Radhanath Maharaj in editing his books and other services. So I moved to Mumbai. So one of the leaders in Mumbai, when I moved there, he told me that if you want to get things done, come to me. If you want to talk, go to some other devotee. So I was a little taken aback, but I appreciated that he set the expectations clearly. That this is what is my strength and this is what is somebody else's strength. Now I found those devotees who like to sit and talk. Often they will talk, they will hear, but they won't do much. It's like, I have a problem? Yeah, I can understand the problem. Do something about it. They won't do anything. So it's a tension, and it's not easy to resolve it. But it is not because the devotees are insincere. This is the key point I'm making over here. That if some devotees, when they come to a temple, their primary thing is, okay, let's sit and talk, let's get to know each other, let's get to understand what is going on in your life. That doesn't necessarily mean that those devotees are not serious devotees. That they don't have the zeal to connect with Krishna. They have, but they're connecting by connecting with each other's hearts more and more. In the life of Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, there was a phase in the Madhya Leela when he was constantly traveling and preaching. In Ante Leela, he was just in Jagannath Puri, and he was sitting and bonding with devotees. Devotees from various places would come and he would talk with them. He would discuss with them, and he would enter deeper and deeper into their hearts. So conversely, a devotee who is concerned primarily, as soon as they see us, they give us some service. They don't really talk much about our well-being. Does that mean that they're not really devotees, they're just using us? That could be a possibility, but that need not be the only possibility. They could be saying that we all get caught in our head, our mind troubles us. You give a person a tangible service, they do that service, they get out of their mind, they connect with Krishna, actually they'll become happier. Whatever problem is there, that'll get fixed. So it's not that one person is necessarily a better devotee than another person. It is just that they're valuing different things in bhakti. And so we could say in office, seva is what is valued. At home, sangha is what is valued. Now by sangha, I'm using it in the sense of one-to-one bonding. Not just coming and hearing a class. That's fine, but one-to-one bonding. Now Shadvidham Priti Lakshanam, it is said that there are 6 characteristics of bhakti, of affection among devotees, and one of them is Guhyam Akhyati Pruchyati. That we share our heart and we hear others share their heart. So both of these are valid and valuable conceptions. So if we are looking for the conception of home, then we need to find the devotees who are also functioning in Krishna consciousness with that conception. Okay, there are some devotees who are not really much concerned about projects and deadlines and achievements. There's one devotee I recently met. He is well known for devotee care, and he was telling me that I talked with him after a long time. I said, I know you're busy. I don't want to take too much of your time. Very senior devotee. He said that the place I am in my spiritual life, I said I get more fulfillment by talking with one devotee individually like you than by giving a class for 1,000 people. So at one level, I was individually touched that he valued me, but I also appreciated the clarity of his realization. That somebody may say, oh, giving a class to 1,000 people is so much more wonderful. You're benefiting so many people. But there are different ways of benefiting people. Sometimes we benefit people by giving them the knowledge about Krishna consciousness by 2,000 people. Sometimes we benefit people by trying to remove the obstacles in the path to Krishna for one specific person by addressing their specific challenges. So our movement is big enough that different devotees with different value systems, they can actually not only coexist, but they can actually help the Krishna consciousness movement to thrive. So a third is it's a school. Now, if it's a school, the primarily focus is learning. So we come here to study, to understand the philosophy, to learn. Now, Prabhupada also said that one of the key differences between the way he established the Krishna consciousness movement and the many other temples that were already there in India was that Prabhupada said we have to have regular classes. Then the first canto of the verse comes Nityam Bhagavata Sevaya. Now Prabhupada translates Nityam Bhagavata Sevaya as by daily attendance of Bhagavatam class. Now at that time there was no Krishna consciousness movement, there was no daily Bhagavatam class. The Gaudiya Math, which was the organization through which Prabhupada was introduced, which was the organization that his spiritual master had started, that didn't have such a serious ethos of daily classes. So Prabhupada had that vision. And one of the key differences that we also find is that there is education over here. There is systematic understanding of philosophy. And this is what attracts many people. So for these people, for those who see it as a school, their primarily value will be how much am I learning? That, okay, if the classes are there, the classes should be good. It shouldn't be just repeating the same old thing every day again and again. And something new should be taught, something we should be going deeper into the subject. So when learning is not a priority, then what happens is that the class just becomes a ritual. So I know one devotee who was the leader of a temple, and when people would not attend the class, he'd say, all of you should develop taste for Krishna. And Vishwanath Chakri Thakur is also, let's talk about it. Everybody has to develop taste for Krishna. One of the devotees was telling me over there that, every day he gives class, he is one of the senior devotees over there, not many senior devotees. So he says he gives classes most of the days, and most of the days he speaks the same things. So I tell us, actually you should develop taste. The same thing you hear, you should develop taste for it. So then I went to the Bhagavatam, and when I was talking to the temple leader, I told him that. And I showed him the Bhagavatam purport, which Chaitanya Charitamrita in his, where Vishwanath Chakri Thakur, in his Bhagavatam purport, he says there is an urgent need to give higher taste to people. And there he further says, it is the responsibility of the teachers to present Krishna in such a way that people get taste. So getting taste is not just the student's responsibility. It is not just the seeker's responsibility. It is also the teacher's responsibility. It is also the seer's responsibility. That the teacher should be able to bring fresh insights. Yes, the core philosophy is the same, but the fresh realizations, fresh perspectives, fresh insights, they should be coming. And when those come, that's where, this is also there in Shastra. This is also there in Shastra. So when there is school, the emphasis is on learning. And this is one of the significant, we could say, positive changes that has happened in our movement over the last 20, 30 years. Is that in the past, okay, you attend a morning class, you attend an evening class, and that's it. And sometimes the evening class would happen for those who are residing in the temple. But now we have systematic education. We have Bhakti Shastri, we have Bhakti Vaibhav. Prabhupada wanted it, but it was not done for many years. And now, so there are systematic courses available for those who want it. And when the idea is that this is a school, here we come to learn, and after we learn, we go and live our life. So it's not that everybody stays in the school. So when the focus is on the idea of a school, the idea is we come here for learning, and then what we learn, we go out and apply in our life. So for many devotees, especially as we are becoming more and more of a congregation-based movement, when we are temple-based movement, everybody stayed in the temple, almost everybody. But now we are a congregation-based movement means more than 90% of the devotees in most parts of the world, some places 95%, they're staying outside the temple. In some places, I think that practically 1 or 2 people only stay in the temple. And sometimes in the temple, there are more deities than there are devotees. Unfortunately, happens in some places. So you could say in those places, 99% we are a congregation-based movement. So there the idea would be the devotees come to the temple, they'll do some seva. And of course that is there, but they also need to be learning. And so the learning becomes very important. Learning will help us to teach, learning will help us to apply, learning will help us to grow. So the quality of the classes becomes very important. And that's why many places now, generally in our movement we had Sunday feasts. Now many temples now they're sort of segregating. There's a Sunday morning class and there's Sunday afternoon class. Sunday morning class is for the devotees, Sunday afternoon class is for new people. Something like that. Sunday afternoon, Sunday evening class. So what we call a Sunday feast, because if you're catering to new people, we'll speak very basic things. And then devotees feel, I've heard this thing so many times. I want something that nourishes me. I want something that takes me deeper in bhakti. So learning means it has to be customized according to the level of the person. So if you consider spiritual journey, for some people, we just have to give them shraddha or give them faith so that they can start off on the spiritual journey. Some people, we have to teach them bhajana kriya. Bhajana kriya means, we know the stages in bhakti. There is shraddha is initial faith, that's curiosity. Then after that comes sadhu sangha. Then I'll not repeat all the stages, bhajana kriya. Then after that say comes anartha nivritti. Then after that comes nishtha, then ruchi, asakti, bhava, prem, all those come up. So now different devotees at different stages need different things. So when we are at a school, like in a school, there are people who are in the kindergarten. There are people who are in, say, junior school. There are in senior school, whatever the words used over here. Somebody's at a PhD level. We cannot have the same class for everyone. So there are classes which are meant to give shraddha. So that would be like the classes for new people. Those who are a little more practicing, for them classes are for bhajana kriya. Okay, this is how you come into temple, you bow down, this is how you chant, this is how you worship. Then there are classes for anartha nivritti. How do you deal with when lust comes up, when greed comes up? Then there are classes which are meant to help us develop ruchi. We just hear about Krishna and how wonderful Krishna is and how sweet are the loving reciprocations between Krishna and devotees. The many devotees who have been around for 10-15 years, this is a phenomena we are seeing in India, that many devotees are going outside ISKCON to learn more about Krishna. They go and hear from Gaudiya Math devotees, they hear from other devotees, sadhus. They say that I came here to love Krishna, but I don't hear anything new about Krishna. So that's why there are some devotees who are now focusing on Krishna Katha based on the Acharya's writings, and that's very much required because different devotees are at different levels, and so if the focus is learning, then there has to be customized teaching. Now, the last point is that this may be seen as a training ground. So now training ground and learning are slightly different. When it's training ground, the key metaphor that Prabhupada sometimes used, this is a war. We are fighting a war against Maya. And we are an army. And the Krishna consciousness movement is like the military base, from where we are sending warriors into the world to fight against the world. Now, if it is training, the primary priority becomes disciplining. If somebody is focusing on the idea that this is a training place. In army, disciplining is very important. So some places the idea is that, okay, you have to do this in this way only. Everybody has to wake up at this time and come for Mangalarti at this time. If anybody who doesn't come, they'll be punished. They'll be publicly shamed. They'll be done this, they'll be done that. Now, is discipline important? Of course it's important. But is that the only value that is important? For some devotees, it is. If somebody is not disciplined enough, you eat food only at this time. If you're eating anything more, you are a sense gratifier. Well, maybe not. So is discipline important? Yes, it is important. But is it the most important value? For some people, it might be. So if it is a disciplining thing, fasting, Ekadashi means you have to fast. If you don't fast, why are you not serious in bhakti? You should become serious. So the idea is that this can also be a value, and it's a valid way of looking at it. But even in the army, not everybody in the long run adheres to the same level of discipline. Now, in army also, some people may join an elite squad where they are very, very trained and very, very alert. Somebody might decide, okay, I won't be on the field, I'll take a desk job in the army. So now they may not require that same level of fitness. Maybe they're not that fit for whatever reason. So if they're not that fit, doesn't mean they can't be a part of the army. So now when somebody is seeking home and they meet somebody who is a disciplinarian, now they may not do too many services, do this, do that, but you have to follow the standard, you have to follow the standard, follow the standard, follow the standard. And they may feel, it's like, when I come to home, it's like I'm coming to a place of fault finders. Everything that I do is being seen under a microscope and I'm being criticized. And if you're constantly being criticized, we are constantly being targeted, we don't feel like home. So is that required? That's required. But it's a different value system. So now the idea here is that some devotees, we're talking about connecting with Krishna. Some devotees may connect with Krishna through seva primarily. So if you go back to our this thing, when school is the primarily value, swadhyay, or you could say shastra is the primary basis of connection. That it is only when we are studying shastra that we are connecting with Krishna. When training, then sadhana. That becomes the primary basis for connection. So now our sangha is important, seva is important, shastra is important, sadhana is important. But while all these are important, different devotees may value different things more. And very few can actually value all of these equally. Actually, nobody can do that. Some value will have to be highlighted, and then others will not be highlighted that much. So the thing we were discussing was that different people have different conceptions, and therefore there are different expectations, and our expectations may be frustrated. So I'll conclude with what do we do when such expectations are frustrated. I'll talk about, the Atma is Sat Chit Ananda. So we'll talk about how to come to the Sat level. Sat is the eternal existence or enduring existence. So first is seek. We need to, each one of us needs to seek like-minded association. Not just association, but like-minded association. We need to find out who are the devotees that we bond with. And we need to connect with those devotees. If we don't find like-minded devotees, we will never feel understood or valued. Now, we need like-minded devotees. We may also need a like-minded guide. That person may not be our immediate service authority. That person may not be our spiritual master or prominent spiritual guide. But we at least need somebody who is like-minded. So now what does like-minded mean? It broadly means three things. Firstly, we understand their mind. That means when they speak, things make sense to us. When they explain, okay, things click. Sometimes somebody may answer a question about some difficult scriptural point by just quoting some other scriptural verse. We say, okay, but that doesn't make logical sense to me. Somebody may say, why are we doing this? Because Prabhupada said this. Okay, Prabhupada said this, that's good, but what is the basis for this? What is the reason for doing this? Say, Prabhupada said that should be enough reason for you. Well, for some people, they want to also make logical sense. So some people, they may not need that. So when we explain, when they explain, we understand their mind, how their mind works. Then they understand our mind. That if we speak, if we ask questions, they are not immediately judging and labeling us. So if they do that, then it's not very helpful. Because everybody can put everybody into some neat boxes. So from the start of my Krishna consciousness, I used to have a lot of questions. And there's some devotees who liked me to ask, because I ask questions so much. So one teacher of mine, he said, Chaitanya Charan is Prashna Sagar. He said, like an ocean of questions. And then I was quite pleased. And after that, the devotee told me, that was a criticism, not a compliment. So, some devotees appreciate questions, some devotees just don't. So, you are, so one devotee, I used to ask him a lot of questions. He says, Chaitanya Charan, I think you need to remember we are practicing the path of bhakti, not the path of jnana. Then I was a little taken aback, but then I talked with another devotee. He says, actually, jnana can also be a very important element of bhakti. And some devotees will practice bhakti through the analytical way. That's a Jiva Goswami was much more analytical than Rupa Goswami. There are different acharyas and they have served Krishna in different ways. So they understand our mind. Third is they help us understand our mind. Okay, you are thinking in this way. Till this point, it's right. Maybe here you are jumping to a conclusion. Here you're going off. So every devotee has certain priorities. So we understand their priorities and they understand where we are coming from. And they help us. So first is that we have to seek like-minded association. That is the place where we'll feel comfortable, where we'll feel compatible. At least one or two devotees with similar value systems we need to find. Without that, we will feel disoriented. Then A is, this is what our class is about, accommodate. But accommodate, we want to go from there to appreciate. First we accommodate and then we appreciate. Appreciate unlike-minded devotees. So appreciate unlike-minded devotees. This is one thing which really happened for me by traveling across the world. I was introduced and grew up in a very, very, you could say, conservative or orthodox brahmachari ashram. But then when I started traveling across the world, I saw so many different versions of Krishna consciousness. And there was Krishna consciousness, but initially my focus was, hey, this is quite different. This devotee doesn't do this devotee doesn't do this devotee doesn't do this. And I could just tick so many wrongs. But then afterwards I started looking at, okay, these are also very dedicated. They're also very, very committed, very, very thoughtful. And so sometimes we need to talk with people. One thing that happens is we talk about people, not with people. Now, talking about people in one sense is very easy. It's like, I can say, oh, this person did like this person did like that, this person. That can be positive, but that can very easily be negative. Instead of talking about people, we need to, okay, this person did this. What exactly were they thinking? What was their plan? We can speculate, but if it's troubling us too much, then why did they do it? Just go and talk with them. And if that is encouraged, then we start understanding where devotees are coming from, why they are doing the things that they are doing. So talk with people instead of talk about people. When this happens, gradually there is deepening of Krishna consciousness, but there's also broadening of Krishna consciousness. That Krishna is, we want to go deep into Krishna, but when we broaden Krishna consciousness, that means that we understand Krishna can be approached from so many different ways. There are so many different means by which we can approach Krishna. So, one of the things which I noticed when I started going to America and started doing I started doing Western outreach is that I saw, especially many Western outreach centers, there were many women in leadership positions. Women would make announcements after the programs. Women would lead kirtans. Women would often be leading the projects. Now, this I had not seen in India. And then now, initially, the way I had been trained, this is just feminism creeping into our movement. And feminism will destroy our movement. That was my notion. But then, when I started talking with devotees, I saw this, even those Matajis were also very dedicated. They're focused on Krishna. And when I talk with their spiritual masters, they give me completely different perspective. Such a master told me that many things, but one of the things is that, I don't know how much it is in UK, probably it is here also, is in America, many people grow up in families where the father is absent. They're single parent families, mostly single mother families, especially the demographic of people that come to us. And there is often a lot of resentment towards male authority figures. That the male authority figure was absent in their life, and that's why there's a lot of resentment towards male authority figure. And therefore, if a male is in authority position, that just puts people off. But when there are females in authority positions, people are more open to it. Now, is that always true? And I talk with one Indian devotee, says, yeah, actually, because there are no male authority figures, that's why they need male authority figures even more. So you can take the same point and come at a completely different conclusion. But they may need a male authority figure more, but can they accept one? Can they trust one? Initially, they may not. So eventually, the point is that trust has to be built. So if initially the trust is built more, so it's a completely valid strategy. And now there could be many reasons why women are in leadership position. But my point here is that if we talk with devotees instead of talking about devotees, oh, you know, in the West they have this, they have that. Well, in India they have this, India they have that. No, it doesn't have to be like that. Just talk with people. So we accommodate and then we appreciate. If somebody has been serving Krishna for 5 years, 10 years, 15 years, 20 years, 30 years, and they are now doing something different from the way I do things or the way things have been done conventionally, there must be some reason why they're doing like that. And so just dismissing them as deviants, as this or that, we try to appreciate them. And then finally is that we transcend. So eventually we come to a place where the differences between different devotees don't matter as much as the fact that they are devotees. So in one sense, I'll conclude with this point. It's like bhakti has in bhakti there is one purpose and many desires. Prabhupada has one mission but many moods. Sometimes we equate the mood, we want to understand the mood and mission of Prabhupada. But the mood and mission are not the same thing. The mission was one, International Society for Krishna Consciousness. But the moods were many. Prabhupada sometimes would say, well, book distribution was going on, no service more important than book distribution. When Prabhupada would go to Gurukul, he would say, there's no service more important than training our children. These are Vaikuntha children. We have to take care of them. If Prabhupada would be guiding pujaris, he says, the whole health of our community depends on how nicely the deities are taken care of. The deities are the heart of our community. If Prabhupada would be going to a farm community, he said that the whole industrialized civilization is on the verge of collapse. We need to take care of cows. We need to show people how to live simply. Simple living and high thinking. This is our most important value. So for Prabhupada, at different times he had different moods. And similarly, what happens is different devotees may take up different aspects of Prabhupada's mission. And so there's one purpose, but within that one purpose, there may be many desires. It's like Prabhupada has given us a giant umbrella. And within that umbrella, each one of us carries some umbrella. Some of us may carry slightly bigger umbrellas. Some of us may carry slightly smaller umbrellas. Some of our umbrellas may be just tiny. They just take shelter. Only we can be under that umbrella. Nobody else can be. But the idea is that we all can carry our umbrellas within that big umbrella. So within the Krishna consciousness movement, different devotees may prioritize different things. And so we can focus on what they are prioritizing specifically, and there are many desires. We say this is different, but we can focus on their purpose. The purpose is to please Prabhupada. The purpose is to please Krishna. The purpose is to love Krishna. So this diversity, this is the bhed that requires tolerance. And this is the abhed, that we are all serving Prabhupada and Krishna. This is where the transcendence is seen. So there is tolerance in transcendence. I'll summarize what I discussed today. Our topic broadly was how is tolerance needed in transcendence. So I first discussed about Arjuna's plight, that he is experiencing immense agony. And he's saying that my life, my situation is like as if I'm lifeless now, I'm a walking corpse. So when we are going through some severe emotions, then we need to be able to communicate. It's important that we need to be able to communicate, and then the other person also seeks to understand. Otherwise, both sides can label each other. You are insensitive and you are hypersensitive. So what happens is there can be the value systems that are there. What is our values? That needs to be communicated. So we talked about 4 different values within the Krishna conscious movement. We talk about Krishna and Krishna consciousness movement. Are they the same? There is the Bhed. Oh, organizations are all corrupted. Abhed. The organization is the only way to Krishna. But rather, Krishna is like the soul. The organization is the body. And the soul requires the body to function in this world. So in that connection, I discussed 4 different concepts. This is a major part of the class. H was what? Home. In home, the primary value is bonding. So here, projects and services are not that important. It's Sangha that is the most important. Just come and associate. And O is office. Here the primary value is achieving. Okay, how much are targets made? Seva. And different devotees may have different values. And if somebody is coming from one value, then they may feel frustrated that I'm not being valued. In school, it is learning. Shastra is the focus. Running around building temples, doing this chit chatting, focus on study Shastra. That's the most important thing. Then training. Training is where the focus is on disciplining, meeting the standards, rigid. So this is where it is. It is sadhana is the focus. Now all of these are valid and valuable, but there are different ways of connecting with Krishna. So what we need to do is, we need to first of all seek. We want to become S-A-T, Satchitananda Sat. S was seek like-minded association. So we discussed how like-minded means we understand their mind, they understand our mind, and then they help us understand our mind. Appreciate unlike-minded. So we talk with instead of talking about others, and then transcend. Transcend by focusing on the common purpose, by focusing on the common mission. On the specific mood may be different. When we focus on the shared mission, then we will be able to see beyond these different moods, see beyond the different specific desires, and see how we're all actually united in our service to Krishna. Thank you very much. Hare Krishna. Do we have time for questions? Yes, Pranav. Do you have a mic? It's a good question. I haven't thought about it. Could be, but if let's say somebody is in distress, artho, then they are coming to Krishna. We could say nowadays psychological distress might be there. Say that might bring people to Krishna. But there could be cultural distress also. I don't have any place where I can go to temple. My children are not learning the values I want to teach. So distress could be come from various avenues. Many people come to spirituality nowadays because of relationship issues. So it's like social or relational distress. So they use the word breakup, but mostly there's no up, it's only breakdown. Isn't it? That happens. So that I don't think you can correlate like that. Maybe we can say the Gyanis come with a philosophical reason, but those are more like 4 reasons why somebody seeks Krishna, whereas these are more like pathways. That is, it is a more pathways for experiencing Krishna. Thank you.
ISKCON's body. And we also learn that Krishna and his body are not different.
Yeah, Krishna and his body are not different, that is true. But in this world, when Krishna manifests, say for example, Jagannath, it is said that they take the, after every 12 years, when the Nyasa ceremony changes, they take the prana of Jagannath and they put it in a new body. So Krishna does that sometimes as a leela. So for Krishna's sake, it's not different from his body. But then I think Bhaktivinoda Thakur talks about it that, is it in Chaitanya Shikshamrita, I think he says that there was there were many different forums. There was the Vishwa Vaishnava Raja Sabha. That was a forum by which Krishna consciousness was spread. The Gaudiya, the Gaudiya Vaishnava Acharyas, they had some forum. So the forums can keep changing. Prabhupada's guru started Gaudiya Math. Now Prabhupada, in one sense, never came to America saying that I'll start my own organization. He was carrying forward his guru's mission only. But then when those who were the power holders in his guru's mission did not offer him any support, did not offer him any assistance in any way, then he decided that if he has to work with them, he needs his own space. So then he created his own forum. So the names are not as important. So in that sense, whether it is ISKCON or it is Gaudiya Math, or say we can have Food for Life. Here you have Food for Scotland. Now maybe you register that as a separate trust. That's fair enough. So the names can vary. So I'm using this in the form of the organization can have different names. But the key is still we are sharing Krishna Bhakti. So we could say instead of the body, we could use it as a dress, the example. Krishna can wear, the deities wear different dresses at different times. So the same Krishna can appear in different dresses. So say ISKCON Society, the Cow Protection Society, Food for Life is a different dress. ISKCON is a different dress. And now if you are youth outreach, sometimes they take a different name. So that would be it's like a different dress.
Yeah, so the danger of that also is when that's when Prabhupada formed ISKCON because he was seeking help to do his spiritual master's mission, but he wasn't getting it, so he started with it. And sometimes we see devotees who don't necessarily seeking help, but go outside of ISKCON anyway. And so that's not the same thing. That surely can't be equated with just saying, well, it's just another Vaishnava organization, because Prabhupada did.
Yeah.
Prabhupada had basically brought Krishna consciousness to us. He instructed us don't hear outside ISKCON and remain within ISKCON.
Yeah, so I think that's a valid point. Good that you may. Thank you for making that point. The point I was making is slightly different, that sometimes if a devotee connects with one particular center, and then that center becomes their universe, and sometimes it may happen that they may not get along with the leadership, or sometimes the leadership changes and they may not be able to get along with the new leadership. So things can change in that center. Now, but that center is not the soul of all of ISKCON. They can go somewhere else. That is also one reason why Prabhupada did not appoint one successor. If you could not get along with that one successor, then there's no place for you in the movement. Now, of course, you could say there are many other reasons. The movement itself was so big that for one person to manage everything would be difficult. But Prabhupada basically created facilities. So we can say that now the movement is broad enough that we all can find our space within the movement. So each center, Prabhupada in one sense made it to be almost like an autonomous center. So each center would be molded in the mood of the leaders of the center. So it's like the term I use for this is like ISKCON is like a nuclear joint family. So we are like a joint family, but each center is like a nuclear family. And each center is going in its own way according to the leader's vision at that particular time. So we can find our place within the broad Krishna consciousness movement. We don't have to go out of it. Thank you. There's one devotee who says that Prabhupada, it said about ISKCON that Prabhupada built a house in which the whole world can live. So he says, Prabhupada build a house in which the whole world can fight. What he meant by that was that even if you have to fight, you don't have to leave the house. If the house is big enough that sometimes two people don't get along, they see each other rarely and they stay in different rooms in the house, different corners of the house. So you can find out. The room is big enough that even if people are fighting, the house is big enough that you don't have to leave the house.
I appreciate the point you made also about understanding that we are also being tolerated, because sometimes devotees are so intolerant of each other they forget that they're having to be tolerated, and perhaps they need a more difficult person to tolerate, or perhaps other people who are not tolerating, but doing a better job of tolerating us.
Yeah. See, sometimes we rise to a high level in our value system, our particular value system. Like say, I may be working very hard to study Shastra and teach Shastra, but somebody else may be concerned. Our temple is near bankruptcy. We have to work to earn money, and you're just spending so much time studying Shastra. What are you doing practically? I may say, Shastra is the real thing. Why are you so worried about money? If you serve Narayan, Lakshmi will come. So everybody tries to excel within their value system. But then if somebody evaluates from another value system, I may feel I have to tolerate you, you may feel you have to tolerate me. So if you can just understand different value systems, that's very helpful. Thank you.
And that brings me to the last question, which is naturally people do have different values, and the point you mentioned about some devotees like to talk, there's a connection with hearts, but that can also be a bit of an excuse, because and it can also be unfair because it burdens others with extra services. That all my services connect with hearts, and don't ask me to pick up a shovel or a brush.
Yeah.
So I think the, um, the daily program we have within the temple, obviously a controversial question, but
Yeah. See,
the daily program we have in the temple is such that we have time for sadhana, time for service, time for devoted leisure. But if the time for sadhana and service just becomes talking all the time, then
yeah, I
it's
agree
an
with you.
unfair burden on those who actually can be responsible.
Yeah, definitely. See, even in the home example, it is not in the home people just sit and talk. Home also work has to be done. Maintaining a home is also a project in one sense, isn't it? But I'm talking about the primary value over there. In home also, you have to clean the house, you have to do your dishes, you have to do the laundry. There are a lot of things to be done at home also. But the primary thing we do when we go home is okay, this is a place where I belong. This is a place where I'm loved. So I'm talking about the primary thing. But the other things also have to be done. We can't just sit and talk all day. That's not what we are here for. Sometimes we may talk about then sometimes somebody would need counseling, and that's fair enough. But sometimes counseling can just become an excuse for either dumping all the emotional garbage inside us on someone else, or just sh- complaining about a third person. Mm, sorry, attention seeking. Yeah. So I think that has to be. If somebody really needs that kind of thing, then we need to send that person to a therapist or something like that. Ideally, if our community is broad enough, then we may have some devotee therapists. If we don't, then we may have to send them to out. We can serve as counselors, but to some degree. That's not what we. That's not our full time service. Some level we can do it. So yes, I'm talking cannot be the only activity that a devotee does. That's but that's where they get their nourishment. That's the point I'm making. If somebody's conception is home, that if I have someone to talk with, that's where I get my nourishment. Yeah, thank you.
Thank you. I thought it was two questions, but as I'm thinking about it, I think it's actually just one question. Is you said that the learning has to be customized to the level of the audience, and you were also saying that some people can probably teach in the Kiani, and I was thinking, is this ability to assess what the audience needs to hear a little bit like nonviolent communication, where you work out the person's needs, which then causes him to have these feelings, and, and then you understand what needs to be communicated to the person.
Yes, exactly. Prabhupada gave the definition of realization, that to present scripture in a way that is interesting for the audience. That means we have to work out what is the interest of scripture. Yesterday I mentioned that also, this is the body of wisdom, that is scripture, and these are the interests of people. So we need to find out what is the area of intersection and present that. So when we do that, then our talk becomes relevant to people. Thank you.
Hare Krishna Guru. Thank you for a wonderful class. Real eye opener for me. Just one question to do, as you were explaining in the school part, that we should, like, sometimes the audience wants, like, something else, speaker is saying something else, and it may be depending on the 9 stages of bhakti, that okay, it's not fulfilling me, fulfillment for me. So who decides that, the asadhaka, what stage is he on? Is it dependent on the speaker, like he decides what the sadhaka is, level is, or the sadhaka is internal reflection of some spiritual authority or something? Can help you understand this?
Okay, who decides? My understanding would be primarily it is the forum. So if we are having the Bhagavatam class, now here I don't have to speak about scientific evidence for the existence of the soul. Now that was not required here. Everybody accepts that. Now that may sometimes be spoken if there is some new argument that has recently been found out or developed, and some questions are coming up and we can address those questions, then we can speak this. So Bhagavatam class is more for insiders. And insiders, generally, I would say they don't even need bhajana kriya so much. We don't need to tell them that this is the way you should chant. Generally, it's more about anarthaniti or asakti ruchi. So for newcomers, those who are coming, then it could be shraddha, it could be sadhu sangha, it could be bhajana kriya. This is what we do. So it depends on context. Like yesterday, the retreat we had, that is primarily for creating shraddha. Prabhupada even translates shraddha as positive curiosity. It's almost like, okay, there's something worthwhile over here. Let me find out. Let me explore this more. So the forum would be the primary thing to decide it. And apart from that, it could be by like a mutual discussion between the organizers and the audience, or the speaker and the organizers. And then they decide, okay, if we are having a particular program, for whom is it? Mm-hmm. And then be targeted accordingly. So Pranaprabhu was telling me the other day that when you have kirtans, sometimes you may say that this is kirtan, and sometimes it's Hare Krishna kirtan. So for devotees, we want Hare Krishna. Devotees want Hare Krishna kirtan. For new people, they want Hare Krishna can become very monotonous for them. So we may have multiple mantras being chanted. So sometimes the organizers themselves clarify this is the forum. So now the seekers may decide also based on their level, their understanding of their level, their guidance with their guides. Okay, which forum should I join into? Okay. Thank you. Yeah.
Should the seekers and the speaker once in a while, like, because in temples we have the template, so we should sit and decide something like what would be more, what should be, or what should be more, should be more, added or subtracted.
That's a good question. It's a little challenging because the Bhagavatam class happens every day, and not everyone gets the time or the bandwidth to prepare properly. So my understanding is the Bhagavatam class is more for a daily reminder and some inspiration in Krishna consciousness. The Bhagavatam class is not really for systematically studying the Bhagavatam. For that, we may need something like Bhakti Vaibhav. Because if you're studying one verse and the purport, we go quite into that verse, and each devotee, according to their realization, will go into that verse in that way. So we are not really studying that pastime. Sometimes we can study, But so the Bhagavatam style class is more for like a daily rejuvenation for spiritual practitioners. It's not so much systematic education in the Bhagavatam. There could be education in Krishna conscious philosophy, but even that will not be systematic. To do it systematically, then we'll have to decide that maybe one chapter of the Bhagavatam should be taken only by one speaker. That means they have to give 10, 15 days classes. And it may not be possible unless that speaker has the bandwidth and everybody also goes along with it. In some temples in the pandemic, they tried it. And in the pandemic, nothing was happening. So they had one temple, I know they covered all the 335 chapters of the Bhagavatam during the pandemic. So every day, one chapter. And they had speakers who were customized to speak. And then only like in that whole year, only 4 or 5 speakers give classes. Now, because it was very customized, so everybody else also like that. These people really know the Bhagavatam. Let them speak. But is that something we want to do every day? I think we want even devotees who may not be very good speakers. They also have realizations. They also have their convictions, and those also need to be manifested. I think the Bhagavatam is not the place where intellectual learning or intellectual capacity should be the basis for determining who gives class. That is one factor, no doubt. And that will be a very important factor when we are doing outreach to new people. It's also an important factor when we are trying to offer systematic education. But the Bhagavatam class is more for the inclusion of everyone in the community, and that everybody learns to see each other spiritually by hearing each other's realizations. Okay. Thank you. Does any of the Matajis have any question? Yes, please.
You mentioned before that you had a poem that you were going to share. I wonder if you
Okay, thank you for remembering that. Let me see if I can find that poem. Okay, that's let me see. Okay. Let's see if we can elaborate this. Okay. Is it visible? Okay. Wait, okay. This is describing Arjuna's plight in the chapter that we discussed. That Arjuna, whose arrows had never missed their target, found that his arrows had not even reached the target. That Arjuna, who had defeated an army of all the gods combined, had been defeated by a motley band of cowardly cowherds. That Arjuna, who had risen to heaven in his self-same body, had seen defeat that felt worse than hell in his self-same body. That Arjuna, who had been repeatedly enriched by Krishna's personal presence, now felt utterly bankrupt by Krishna's absence. That Arjuna, who felt battered and shattered, dejected and rejected, powerless and purposeless. That Arjuna wondered whether Arjuna was even Arjuna without Krishna. That Arjuna then remembered Krishna's words in the Gita. That Arjuna remembered that Krishna was his words in the Gita. That Arjuna remembered that Krishna was with him through the words of the Gita. That Arjuna realized with rising relief and trembling awe, he was without Krishna, yet he was still with Krishna. Thank you. Shri Krishna Bhagwan ki jai, Srila Prabhupada ki, Gaur Bhakta Vrinda ki, Nitai Gaur Premanande. Thank you very much.
So we're very grateful to have had your association in the last few days, and we hope that we see you again on at least an annual basis. I think there's a lot more work we can do together here. I hope you feel that the devotees here are in a field that you can help cultivate as well.
Yes, true,
And
definitely.
I feel that we've brought value to the various programs and to the devotees here at Charan. And so for those who don't have print these books, then I encourage you to buy some of these books because they will help you understand the Krishna consciousness and the thing that you're trying to apply in life, which you struggle with. This will help to illuminate your practice, which you're involved in on a day-to-day basis. Help you understand what you're doing better. As I was saying to Charan the other day, some of these things should actually be enshrined in the Bhakti program. It may save us many years of confusion. So, personally, I'm very grateful and I see it as being very useful. And so today we have the last session. There's no Sunday feast at Srimad today, and we're having a Srimad temple outing in Dasa, Hindu Mandir. We very kindly facilitate which can Charan to give a talk there on Bhagavad Gita as a guide, life guide. It's not just a book to read or a book to be kept on the shelf in a nice cloth or whatever you want to explain. And I think this is also very valuable for all us devotees here because as in this one temple we experience a lot of visitors, both Western and Indian devotees, and it's important that we learn how to connect and relate with the different devotees and help to serve them and bring them closer to Krishna. So I think it's important field outing that we see how he connects with the Indian community in Glasgow. And to that end also, Andrew Lamb is organising the coach load of about 50 people to come here in a few weeks' time. We'll give the cooks plenty of time to know that. So this is really good because in many places people become protective of the congregations, but the communication between these temples, Balashwara and Kabi, have been making nice relations with the local authorities there. It's Ram Lakshman in Edinburgh. And Scotland is a small world, we have the Scottish Hindu Forum, and we're all helping each other in current challenges, but also for the future, so that we have a voice within, we can voice our things to the government and we can get any concerns. So I think this is a good inter-temple thing. So there'll be prasad, and I believe also Chaitanya is going to talk to the dormitories, or is there no time for that now?
All of them must be hungry now. I mean, I'm okay, available, but
Yeah.
We are hungry for knowledge.
Yeah.
Krishna.
But if they don't, someone might not be fed, they might get angry. Angry, right? Hungry, angry. Yeah. And if there's time and you go to allow it and crowds just get time, then that's fair enough. It's going to be a short one. Otherwise, we're planning to leave at half time. Just in order to get in there and set up and deal with any traffic, etc. And the talk is due to start at 11:45 for an hour with questions and answers, and then Charan will be served there. And then we plan to also have a Harinam in Glasgow afterwards. If time allows, we'll be enthusiastic. And if they're not, then Gauri wants to come. Okay, so there are some books available. I can see probably straight after class. We'll also purchase some of these books for keeping here in the shop, and for the ashram we'll be making available as well. Any questions at this point? So we're leaving from Punabhavan at 10:30. If you want to get yourself fed and ready, see you there. Respondere in ki, Prabhupada ki, Shukodi Time Apishasha ki, Vaishnava Sangha Vaishnava Seva ki,